In the soft glow of evening light, I often sit in my favorite chair by the window, gazing at the garden where roses still bloom. Despite the years, my name is Evelyn, and I've carried this story in my heart like an old family recipe passed down through generations. It all started with my son William, a kind boy with curly hair and a curiosity that filled our home with questions. We lived in a modest bungalow on Maple Lane, where the sounds of big band music drifted from the radio and the aroma of homemade stew warmed the air. My husband Harold and I raised him with steady hands, teaching him the importance of honesty and hard work. Those were simpler times, when we'd gather around the table, sharing laughs over Sunday dinners and dreaming of the future. Harold worked at the mill for 40 years, his calloused hands a testament to his dedication. William grew up watching him, admiring his quiet strength. But as a young man, William met Susan at a local dance. She had a lively spirit at first, but over time, her energy turned to complaints about life's hardships. They married young and moved to the city, chasing better opportunities. At first, the letters came regularly filled with updates on their new life. Then the calls grew sparse, until one day 13 years ago, they stopped altogether. It was after a family argument over money. Harold had loaned them a sum for a down payment on their apartment, but Susan insisted it was a gift, not a loan. Words were exchanged harshly, and William sided with her, cutting ties without looking back. The silence that followed was like a heavy fog settling over my days. I mourned the loss, quietly tending to Harold. In his final years, as his health faded, he passed peacefully one spring morning, leaving me the house and his savings. I continued on volunteering at the community centre, knitting blankets for newborns, and walking the neighbourhood paths where we'd once strolled as a family. Then 2 years ago, fate smiled on me in an unexpected way. I won the state lottery, a sum that made me a millionaire. Overnight, I didn't change much, keeping the news private, investing wisely, and living as I always had. But small towns talk, and somehow word reached William. It was a crisp autumn day when a car pulled into the driveway. William emerged, looking older, but familiar with grey at his temples. Susan followed, carrying bags, her expression expectant. They stood on the porch, and William spoke first. "Mother, we heard about your good fortune as your son. I'm entitled to some of this. We've had tough times and we're moving in. You have all this extra space anyway." Susan nodded, adding, "We can help around the house. It'll be like old times." Her words hung in the air, laced with assumption. I felt a pang of the old hurt, but also a calm resolve. I smiled gently and invited them inside for tea. We sat in the kitchen, the same table where William had done his homework years ago. The clock ticked steadily, marking the moments. I poured the tea and listened as they unfolded their story. William spoke of job losses and debts. Susan complained about their cramped apartment and how life had been unfair. I nodded, absorbing their words, remembering the boy who once picked flowers for me on Mother's Day. But beneath their pleas, I sensed the absence of true remorse, only the lure of my newfound wealth. After a long pause, I spoke softly. "William, life has taught me many lessons over these decades. Family isn't about what we can take, but what we give freely from the heart you left us behind." For 13 years, not a card or call in all that time, Harold went to his grave, wondering where he went wrong. Now you return, not for love, but for money. That path leads to more emptiness. They shifted uncomfortably, but I continued with warmth in my voice. "I've always loved you both, and that hasn't changed. But love doesn't mean giving in to demands. It means setting boundaries with kindness. I should have done this long ago, taught you that entitlement erodes the soul. while gratitude builds it. Susan frowned, her arms crossed. But William's eyes met mine with a flicker of understanding. I offered them a small sum to help with immediate needs, enough for a fresh start, but not a handout. And I invited them to visit regularly to rebuild what was lost through time and effort. Not through moving in, the conversation stretched into the evening as we reminisced about Harold's fishing trips and the Christmas mornings. Filled with simple joys, tears came for all of us. Mixing regret with hope by nightfall, they packed their bags anew. Susan quieter now, William hugging me tightly at the door. "Promise you'll call," he whispered, and I nodded, knowing this was the beginning of mending. In the months that followed, William did call, sharing stories of his life and listening to mine. Susan joined, sometimes her tone softening. As she learned to appreciate small acts of kindness, they visited for holidays, helping in the garden and laughing over old photo albums. The house remained mine, a sanctuary of memories, but now it held room for new ones. I've learned that revenge isn't about harsh words or closed doors. It's about loving enough to guide someone back to their better self-life in our later years. Reminds us that forgiveness wrapped in wisdom is the greatest gift we can give. As I watch the roses sway in the breeze, I feel a deep peace knowing connections can bloom again if we tend them with care.